When 6-year-old Wyatt Kelce asked Taylor Swift the one question every adult at the dinner table was thinking, but was too polite to ask, her innocent curiosity about love and fame would lead to one of the most honest conversations about relationships that the Kelce family had ever witnessed, and Taylor's response would change how they all saw her forever. March 18th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. The Kelce family home in Kansas City was filled with the warm chaos that only comes from a house full of children, football memorabilia, and the smell of Kylie Kelce's famous Sunday pasta sauce. Taylor Swift sat at the dining room table, watching Travis help his 3-year-old niece Elliot color in a Chiefs coloring book, while Jason bounced baby Bennett on his lap. This had become one of Taylor's favorite ways to spend Sunday evenings, surrounded by the controlled chaos of Travis's family, feeling like she was part of something bigger than herself. After months of high-profile appearances and carefully managed public outings, these quiet family dinners felt like the most authentic part of her week. "Taylor, can you pass the Parmesan cheese?" Kylie asked from across the table, trying to convince Elliot that vegetables were just as exciting as mac and cheese. "Of course," Taylor replied, reaching for the cheese grater. She'd been coming to these family dinners for 4 months now, and she was finally starting to feel less like a guest and more like family. The conversations flowed naturally. The kids treated her like any other aunt figure in their lives, and Travis seemed more relaxed here than anywhere else. 6-year-old Wyatt, Jason, and Kylie's eldest daughter had been unusually quiet during dinner. She was normally the chatterbox of the family, full of questions about everything from why the sky was blue to why her dad used to play football in a different city. But tonight, she sat at the children's end of the table, pushing her pasta around her plate and stealing glances at Taylor when she thought no one was looking. "Wyatt, eat your dinner, sweetheart," Jason prompted gently. "You've barely touched anything." "I'm thinking, Daddy," Wyatt replied with the serious expression that 6-year-olds get when they're processing something big. "Thinking about what, baby girl?" Kylie asked. Wyatt looked around the table at all the adults, then fixed her gaze directly on Taylor Swift with the kind of unwavering focus that only children possess. "I have a question for Taylor," she announced. "What's your question, Wyatt?" Taylor asked, setting down her fork and giving Wyatt her complete attention. She'd learned that when children had questions, they usually led to the most interesting conversations. What happened next would forever change how everyone at that table understood Taylor Swift's relationship with their family. "Taylor," Wyatt said with the earnest tone of someone asking a very important question, "Uncle Travis loves you very much. I can tell because he smiles different when he talks about you. But do you really love him back, or do you just love him because he's famous for football?" The silence that fell over the dinner table was so complete that the only sound was baby Bennett's happy babbling from Jason's lap. Every adult in the room froze. Jason's face went bright red with embarrassment. Kylie's eyes went wide as she started to say Wyatt in that tone that meant a child was about to be corrected for saying something inappropriate. Travis looked like someone had just thrown him a curveball he didn't see coming, his fork halfway to his mouth, staring at his 6-year-old niece with an expression caught between shock and curiosity. But Taylor Swift did something that surprised everyone. Instead of looking embarrassed or defensive, she smiled. Not her public smile, but the soft, genuine smile that Travis had fallen in love with, and she stood up from her chair. "That's a really important question, Wyatt," Taylor said, walking around the table to kneel down beside the little girl's chair so they were at eye level. "Can I give you an honest answer?" Wyatt nodded solemnly, her big brown eyes, so much like Jason's, fixed on Taylor's face. "I started loving Uncle Travis before I even knew he was famous at football," Taylor began, her voice gentle but clear enough for everyone at the table to hear. "Do you want to know how I knew I loved him?" "Yes," Wyatt whispered, completely captivated. "I knew I loved him because of how he made me laugh when I was having a bad day. I knew I loved him because when I told him about my cats, he didn't think I was weird for loving them so much. He actually learned all their names and asks about them. I knew I love him because of how his whole face lights up when he talks about you and Elliot and baby Bennett." Wyatt was listening with the kind of intense focus that children reserve for stories that really matter to them. "But do you want to know the exact moment I knew for sure?" Taylor continued. "Yeah," Wyatt said, leaning closer. It was the first time Uncle Travis came to my house and met my cats. Meredith, my grumpiest cat, doesn't like anyone. She hides when new people come over. But Uncle Travis sat very quietly on my floor for 20 minutes, not moving until Meredith decided he was okay. Then he petted her so gently and told her she was beautiful. That's when I knew he had a kind heart, even when no one was watching. Travis was staring at Taylor with an expression of complete amazement. In all the months they'd been together, she'd never told him that story, had never told him that was the moment she fell in love with him. But Wyatt wasn't done with her questions. "But what about all the cameras and the people who take pictures of you guys?" she asked. "Mommy says sometimes people pretend to like each other for the cameras." Kylie looked mortified. "Wyatt, sweetheart, it's okay," Taylor said, holding up a hand. "Wyatt, that's actually a very smart thing to think about. You're right that sometimes people do pretend for cameras. But can I tell you a secret?" Wyatt nodded eagerly. "The times I love Uncle Travis the most are the times when there are no cameras at all. Like right now, sitting at this table with your family. Like when he helps me bake cookies at 2 in the morning because I can't sleep. Like when we're in the grocery store and he makes silly voices for all the products to make me laugh." Taylor paused, glancing up at Travis, who was now openly emotional, then back at Wyatt. "Love isn't about being famous, Wyatt. Love is about how someone makes you feel safe and happy and like you can be yourself, even when you're scared or sad or having a bad day. Uncle Travis makes me feel like I can be Taylor the person, not just Taylor the singer." The entire table had gone completely quiet except for the sound of Elliot's crayon scratching against her coloring book, oblivious to the profound conversation happening around her. But here's where Wyatt's innocent wisdom created a moment that none of them would ever forget. "So you love Uncle Travis the same way Mommy loves Daddy?" Wyatt asked, "Even when Daddy is smelly from football practice and Mommy still give him kisses?" The adults all burst into laughter, the tension finally breaking. Even Jason was laughing, despite his face still being red from embarrassment. "Yes, Wyatt," Taylor said, grinning. "I love Uncle Travis, even when he's smelly from football practice." "Good," Wyatt announced with satisfaction. "Because Uncle Travis has been sad for a long time before you came along. Now he's not sad anymore." That's when something incredible happened that would become one of Travis's most treasured memories. Travis, who had been trying to keep his emotions under control throughout this entire exchange, finally spoke up, his voice thick with feeling. "Wyatt, can I tell you something?" "Yes, Uncle Travis." "The reason I love Taylor so much is because she talks to you like you're important. She doesn't talk down to you or ignore your questions like some grown-ups do. She treats you like your thoughts and feelings matter." Travis looked around the table at his family, then back at Taylor, who was still kneeling beside Wyatt's chair. "And that tells me what kind of person she really is. When someone is kind to children and animals, you know they have a good heart." Wyatt considered this with the seriousness of a Supreme Court justice, then made an announcement that would make everyone at the table tear up. "Okay, then Taylor can be part of our family now. But she has to promise to keep making Uncle Travis happy, and Uncle Travis has to promise to keep making Taylor laugh." "Deal," Taylor said immediately, extending her pinky finger to Wyatt. "Deal," Travis agreed, reaching across the table to join their pinky promise. As they sealed their agreement with the solemnity that only pinky promises between children and adults can achieve, Kylie wiped away a tear, and Jason cleared his throat in that way that meant he was trying not to cry. But the evening wasn't over yet, and what happened next would create a tradition that continues to this day. "Taylor," Wyatt said as they were cleaning up after dinner, "can I tell you a secret too?" "Of course, sweetheart. I asked Mommy and Daddy if I could ask you that question, and they said it wasn't polite. But I really wanted to know because I want Uncle Travis to be happy forever." Taylor knelt down again, this time with tears in her eyes. "Wyatt, that might have been the most important question anyone has ever asked me. And you know what? I'm going to ask you a question now. Okay, will you help me make sure Uncle Travis stays happy? Because I think he's happiest when he's with his family, and that includes you." "Yes," Wyatt said immediately. "We could be a team." That night, as Taylor and Travis drove home, Travis reached over and took her hand. "You know what's crazy?" he said. "What?" A 6-year-old just asked you the question I was too scared to ask. I've been wondering for months if this is real for you, or if you're with me because I'm this NFL player, this celebrity. But I was terrified to bring it up because I didn't want to seem insecure. Taylor squeezed his hand. Travis, everything I told Wyatt was true. But can I tell you something else? Always. I've been wondering the same thing about you. I've been scared that you love the idea of dating Taylor Swift more than you love me as just Taylor. They pulled into their driveway and sat in the car for a moment, both of them processing what had just happened. So, a 6-year-old just solved our relationship's biggest unspoken issue. Travis said finally. I think she did, Taylor laughed. Kids have a way of cutting through all the complicated stuff adults create. But here's the detail that will absolutely melt your heart. The next day, Taylor received a handwritten note in her mailbox, a crayon drawing of two stick figures holding hands, one with yellow hair, one with a football jersey, with Taylor plus Uncle Travis equals happy family, written in Wyatt's careful first-grade handwriting. But that wasn't all. At the bottom of the drawing, in smaller letters, Wyatt had written, P.S. I love you too now. Taylor immediately called Travis, crying happy tears. She wrote me a love note. What did it say? That I'm part of the family now. That drawing now hangs in a frame in Taylor and Travis's kitchen, right next to a photo from their engagement party where Wyatt is between them, all three of them making silly faces at the camera. 6 months later, when Taylor and Travis got engaged, Wyatt was the first person they called after their parents. When Taylor asked if Wyatt would be her flower girl, Wyatt's response was typical 6-year-old honesty. Only if I can ask you questions at the wedding, too. What kind of questions? Taylor asked, laughing. Like, are you still going to make Uncle Travis happy, even when you're married? Because married is forever, and forever is a really long time. Yes, Wyatt, Taylor promised. Even when we're married, even forever. Good, Wyatt said with satisfaction. Because I asked God to send Uncle Travis someone nice, and I think God listened really good. Today, Wyatt Kelce, now 7 years old, still asks Taylor the important questions about love, about marriage, about why grown-ups sometimes make things more complicated than they need to be. And Taylor still kneels down to answer every single one, because she learned that night that the most profound truths about love often come from the most unexpected sources. But perhaps the most beautiful part of this story is how it changed the entire Kelce family dynamic. After that dinner, Jason told Kylie that he'd never seen Travis so sure of anything in his life as he was of Taylor's love. Kylie said she'd never seen Taylor so genuinely comfortable with being herself around other people. And Wyatt? She still takes credit for helping Uncle Travis and Taylor figure out love, and she's not wrong. What do you think about Wyatt's innocent but important question? Have you ever had a child ask you something that made you see a situation more clearly? Sometimes the most profound wisdom comes from the most unexpected sources, and sometimes it takes a 6-year-old to ask the questions adults are too afraid to voice. And here's something that will make you believe in the power of honest communication. Taylor and Travis now have a rule that if either of them has a question about their relationship, no matter how scary or uncomfortable, they have to ask it out loud, just like Wyatt did. They call it their Wyatt Rule, and they credit it with keeping their communication honest and their love strong. If this story reminded you of the importance of asking the questions that matter, even when they're scary, make sure to hit that like button and share time when someone's honesty changed your perspective. And subscribe for more heartwarming stories about your favorite celebrities. Because sometimes the most beautiful love stories are the ones that happen around a family dinner table when a child decides to speak the truth that adults are too afraid to say.